Alright, today we're having a look at Laser Bounce by Acer and Pixel Gorilla. Alright, so here we are on Laser Bounce by Acer and Pixel Gorilla, and we've taken a look at this on the stream before, so I thought we'd do like maybe a minute or so of the early levels, then jump to the last one that we played. But what we've got here is a bit of a tricky laser-based bouncing lasers off of mirrors types of puzzles. The early levels set things up pretty clearly. You can use the X button to move things over. You use the R2 to start the laser, and if it works, you move on to the next stage. So we move on to the next level like that, and all the levels are basically like this, and you just got to kind of build them up and build them up. Now we see that different elements are introduced. For example, here some pieces cannot be dragged. Nice and easy to read on the screen, by the way. All of the game is very easy on the eyes, very easy to kind of figure out the different pieces, and the only mistakes that I make are just constantly pressing the wrong buttons, but that's completely on me. Now we can see that this one here, because it's set in, is not going to be able to be moved. This one is a bit up so that we can actually move it. Hit the R2 and bounce, bounce, bounce. We can move on to the next level. Let's do one last level like this, and then we will move on to our final one. Now it says use the directional pieces to rotate things, and we can just hover over that, rotate things like that. Of course, we could still pick them up, for example, like this. And I think actually that does it. Look at that. But we're going to bounce over to level 8 because that's where we stopped on the stream. But this is kind of the intro section here. Alright, so here we are in level 8, and we can see that it's already gotten far more complex. And there are 30 levels, so I can only imagine... I always press the R2 instead of the X, and I don't know why. I can only imagine that things are going to get even more difficult from here on out. We can kind of test up where we want things to go. We can see that that's not going to work. There's this blocking wall in the way. That's not going to work because it's just dumb. I don't know why I would have done that. This is also going to give us a blocking wall. So we need to... I think we want to get... I always press R2 instead of X, and I don't know why. I think we want that out of the way. Alright, now that's going to go there. So I think we need to rotate this here, and maybe that'll help us out. It does kind of, but not really. We're going to want to rotate this around here, and maybe... like that, and maybe like no, I turned that one the wrong way. Maybe this will go kind of like that. No, I thought that would give us a diagonal, but oh, clearly it's not directly diagonal across. Oh no. Now how do we... that does nothing for us. And I think that moving this isn't gonna help, is it? We see the limits of Nisco's spatial intelligence, unfortunately, in this level. Alright, hold on a second. How is this gonna work out for us? I don't think we're gonna be able to get this in 2 minutes. That's all we got left. Hi, zap. Yeah, that's, we need you to go someplace different. But where would different be? Gosh, this is a hard one to showcase because I need to do a lot of thinking, and it's hard to elaborate on my thinking whilst I'm actually thinking. Wah, wah. Now, we need this to be here, right? It's not going to help us out otherwise, as far as I know. But no, I pressed the wrong button again. I apologize a little bit to Acer that I'm not really showcasing this as well as I possibly could. It's just a necessity, and that necessity is that I are dumb. Now that's blocking on the side, so obviously not. Huh. Gosh, I really wanted to show y'all success, but apparently success is maybe beyond us. We're definitely not going to get this in the time that we got left, but I'm going to try to get it and see if I can't at least show you in the hub. Wow. But this is a really, really cool level, and I like the fact that everything is nicely, clearly set up. The controls are pretty basic, but they're pretty intuitive to grasp, and mostly it's just dealing with kind of simple physics and reflections. I think that Acer and Pixel Gorilla have done a great job with this, but we're going to talk about it more in the hub, and we will see you there. See yas! And we're back, and Laser Bounce by Acer and Pixel Gorilla and a host of other helpers and designers, and I'd say and it might be surprising a little bit from the video. Where did my green circle go? It's a green circle level. I really, really like this level. There's a lot of good things to say about it. There's really not very much bad to say about it, actually. One thing that I particularly liked, and start things out nice and simple, is the very clean look to it. Right from the first menu, you've got a very professional looking menu, lightly animated, got some nice music going on in the background, going over to the level select screen, and I really appreciated how all of the levels had their own little title to them, and they kind of give a hint as to what you're going to be seeing in the level, and what's going to be maybe a way to beat it. Like, for example, we see the title Snake, and you end up making a snaky line with your mirrors to actually complete that level. And that was one of the few small negative points that I had about the levels. I kind of wish that they had kept that title in the actual level itself, because when you're progressing level to level as opposed to going through the level select in the menu, you don't actually see what the title is going to be, but sometimes those titles can be useful hints, and at the very least they're kind of funny and amusing, and I appreciated them for that. So to be able to see them in the level would have been kind of cool, and that cleanness of design does hold true throughout the levels themselves. The various objects and the various elements of the levels are, for the most part, really, really easy to parse, even though I didn't catch all of it the first time when I played it on stream, because I was kind of balancing talking about the level and talking to chat and actually playing the level itself. But the way, for example, that movable blocks are actually raised up a little bit off the ground as a visual cue that this will be something that you can move, so that when you're scanning over the environment, you can quickly realize, well, these mirrors are movable, these mirrors are set in stone, and to leave them as that, I thought that was really, really cool. I know it's maybe a little bit cheaty, but to be able to trigger off the laser, see where it's going to be going, stop the laser, and then move the blocks around step by step to actually complete the level, which is how I did it. But I appreciated it. I appreciated that was there. It wasn't just like a one shot. You throw your dice and see if it works, and if it doesn't, the level bounces you out. I like that kind of trial and error progression through the level, which is something I personally really needed to do, because as mentioned in the video, and as we've mentioned in a number of videos, that Risco-chan is not super spatially aware, and the kind of wrapping my head around how the laser was going to be reflecting off the mirrors, it was a bit of a thing for me. And these puzzles are posers. They are really relatively tough. Now, we played through in the stream up to puzzle 8. I actually did complete puzzle 8, even though I could not show that to you, but maybe I'll show a little bit of the completion right here in a pip. I did manage to beat it, but I really had to set my mind to it. I ended up making my way up to puzzle 14 before the time investment per puzzle started to get a little bit severe, considering the kind of time schedule that I'm on actually putting the videos together. But I really do want to go back, and I really want to pick away at these puzzles. I actually jumped ahead because on the level select board, those levels are not gated by progress. You can actually just go and choose whichever one that you want. So I thought, like, well, what's the worst that it can be? How bad could it get? Let's take a look at stage 30, level 30, and see how that was. And I got the laser running. It's called Perpetual Motion Machine, got the laser running, and immediately doors started slamming open and closed. And I was like, okay, building up to that would probably be better. To jump directly into 30 would, it's a little bit more than I can handle, but I did kind of feel like I was learning a little bit and pushing my brain as I was working these puzzles, and that's something that I really appreciate, that these puzzles are in fact challenges, at least challenges to me. Kind of interesting side note that when the puzzle was designed by somebody aside from Acert or Pixel Gorilla, that the name will be up in the upper right corner of the screen. That Perpetual Motion Machine was designed by Rabbit Jellyfish, who we've looked at both in the Little Bite-Sized Planet series as well as in Fever Dreams, although I'd have to check my notes to see what level that we actually looked at from Rabbit Jellyfish. But they're a really cool creator, and they put together some pretty good work, and they put together a really tricky puzzle for this. Now, as the difficulty does start to increase step by step with the puzzles, and you do start to see new elements introduced in the puzzles. Now, as we're working through the tutorials, and they'll tell you that the simplest objects can be moved, and then later on that they'll tell you that you can rotate these objects, and you're kind of figuring things out as you go along. We get to a point, I want to say around maybe 10 or 11, stage 10 or stage 11, where you start to get photovoltaic mirrors that you'll have to activate, because some of these puzzles you don't always have to use every mirror to actually get through the puzzle itself, but these photovoltaic mirrors that you actually have to bounce something off of them to open up some doors that you'll be using to progress on. And later on you'll also be seeing, we see them in stage 13, these kind of photovoltaic passages or chambers that not only along with the mirrors, but these chambers as well. And the chambers, they don't actually redirect the flow of the laser. It's a straight line shot that you've got to make through that chamber. So it's not just how can I move this laser around, but how can I move this laser around so that it hits all the necessary elements and then is able to wrap around to get to the ball that is actually going to let you progress on. Well, not let you progress on, because you can progress on if you want to just skip the level, but to let you actually complete the stage. I keep on intermingling stage and level, and I really apologize for that. It's a bad habit that I got into when I was looking at Little Big Planet levels, and it seems to have followed me here. But I really liked this level, this creation. Hi. I really like this creation. I appreciated the challenge of it, and I don't want to come off as I'm so smart, I'm so great at games, because that is absolutely positively not the truth. But I do find that it seems like it's hard to make a challenging creation in LBP or in Dreams that doesn't feel frustrating, that doesn't feel unfair. We've got this vast array of creations, of stages, of levels that are not really that challenging at all. They may be extremely fun, they may be very enjoyable and well presented, but they're not really a lot of a challenge. And then you'll run into these creations where the difficulty level is so high on it that it feels like almost nobody's going to be able to engage with it and get any fun out of it. But that middle range, something that actually builds you up throughout the creation so that you are doing better at the midpoint than you were at the beginning, and better at the end point than you were at the midpoint, I find those to be relatively rare, and I think that Laser Bounce does a really good job with that in the puzzle aspect. And I think, props have to go out to all of the creators that helped out with this creation, and to Acert, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but to Acert and Pixel Gorilla for putting this together in one nice package for the community. You all did a really great job, and anybody watching, if you haven't played Laser Bounce, absolutely give it a shot, because it's it's a little bit mind-breaking, possibly, but it's a heck of a lot of fun, and it's got a great soundtrack to listen to while you're playing along. But I think that pretty much wraps it up for us here this go about. So from me, Disco, here in Osaka, to all of you out there, wherever you may happen to be, thank you. Arigato, arigato, sayonara, see you, and ciao.